The murder of Brianna Ghey, a tragic case that shocked Britain. On a chilly Saturday afternoon in February 2023, the peaceful community of Culcheth, a quiet commuter town on the outskirts of Greater Manchester, was shattered by the discovery of a horrific crime. At approximately 3:13 p.m., a dog walker came across the lifeless body of 16-year-old Brianna Ghey near a bench in Culcheth Linear Park. The teenager had been brutally stabbed 28 times in what would later be described by prosecutors as one of the most disturbing cases in recent history. Brianna Ghey was a vibrant teenager who lived in Birchwood, near Warrington. Living as a transgender girl, she had built a significant following on TikTok, where her videos of outfit trials and lip-syncing performances attracted over 30,000 followers. Despite her strong online presence, Brianna struggled with anxiety and an eating disorder, often preferring to stay at home. The day of her murder was particularly significant as she had gathered the courage to take a bus alone to meet someone she believed was a friend. The perpetrators of this heinous crime were two 15-year-olds, Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe. Jenkinson had met Brianna at Birchwood High School after being excluded from her previous school for a drug-related incident. On the surface, both teenagers appeared unremarkable. Jenkinson came from a well-regarded family in Culcheth, while Ratcliffe was known as a bright student with aspirations of becoming a microbiologist. However, beneath this facade lay a disturbing reality. Jenkinson harbored a deep obsession with serial killers and violence. Her bedroom contained handwritten notes about notorious murderers like Jeffrey Dahmer, Richard Ramirez, and Harold Shipman. According to her psychiatrist, she had spent 2 years immersing herself in violent content on the dark web, watching real people being killed. Ratcliffe shared these dark interests, and together they formed a deadly partnership. Their plot to murder Brianna began taking shape in December 2022. Jenkinson had become obsessed with Brianna and had already attempted to kill her once by poisoning, which resulted in Brianna being found severely ill by her mother. When this attempt failed, the pair began planning a more direct approach. They initially targeted another potential victim but turned their attention back to Brianna when that plan fell through. The murder itself was meticulously planned. On February 11, 2023, Brianna left her home around 12:45 p.m. and boarded the number 28 bus. She texted her mother expressing anxiety about traveling alone, receiving encouraging messages in return. Jenkinson and Ratcliffe met beforehand, buying lunch at Sainsbury's and acting like typical teenagers. They met Brianna around 2 p.m. and led her to Culcheth Linear Park under the pretense of meeting a drug dealer, a fiction created by Jenkinson sending messages to herself. Despite Brianna's growing suspicion about the situation, describing Jenkinson as weird in messages to another friend, she continued with them to a secluded area of the park. There, at around 3 p.m., they carried out their brutal attack using a knife Ratcliffe had acquired during a family holiday. Brianna became their focus after they failed to lure one of the others out via a fake social media profile. She would be easier to kill, they agreed, in one of thousands of text messages exchanged in the run-up to the murder on February 11 last year. The teenagers plotted her murder meticulously at the age of 15, with Jenkinson handwriting a plan for how, where, and when they would stab Brianna. They even had a code word, "Gay," to signal the start of the attack in Culcheth Linear Park in Warrington. They carried it out almost to the letter, stabbing Brianna 28 times before they were disturbed by a couple walking their dogs. After the murder, they attempted to cover their tracks, with Jenkinson even posting a tribute to Brianna on Snapchat and fabricating a story about Brianna leaving with a man from Manchester. The investigation moved swiftly. Within 24 hours, both suspects were in custody, identified through school records, CCTV footage, and DNA evidence found on drinks containers at the crime scene. When arrested, Jenkinson questioned why she was a suspect, while Ratcliffe told police, "I can explain." The trial, which began 9 months after the killing at Manchester Crown Court, revealed the full extent of the teenagers' disturbing plans. Both defendants blamed each other for the murder. Jenkinson claimed her messages about killing were merely fantasy, while Ratcliffe insisted he was just playing along to impress a girl he liked. The trial was notable for several unusual features in British criminal justice, including allowing Ratcliffe, who was diagnosed with autism, to give evidence by typing rather than speaking. Throughout the trial, neither defendant showed remorse for their actions. Sentencing, Mrs. Justice Yip said, "You both took part in a brutal and planned murder which was sadistic in nature and where a secondary motive was hostility towards Brianna because of her transgender identity." She said Jenkinson was motivated by a deep desire to kill, and pronounced her concern on hearing that the teenager had expressed the desire to kill again after her conviction. She had written a new kill list since her detention, which included the names of some of her carers, the court heard. She told a psychiatrist she had stabbed Brianna repeatedly and had found it exciting, and that she killed her because she thought Brianna would stop being her friend. She murdered Brianna so she would always be with her, the court heard. Jenkinson, who was obsessed with serial killers, also admitted to the psychiatrist that she intended to take parts of Brianna's body as a token. She had previously told Ratcliffe she wanted to keep Brianna's pretty eyes. Brianna's mother, who had initially felt some sympathy for the defendants, expressed how this changed upon learning the true nature of their actions and seeing their lack of remorse. She spoke movingly about how the knowledge of her daughter's final moments of fear would haunt her forever. In December 2023, both teenagers were found guilty of murder. After their conviction, the reporting restrictions protecting their identities were lifted in the public interest. Jenkinson received a minimum term of 22 years, while Ratcliffe was sentenced to serve at least 20 years, substantial sentences for such young offenders, reflecting the exceptional brutality and sadistic nature of their crime. The case sent shockwaves through the community and the nation. Neighbors of both killers expressed sympathy for their families, struggling to reconcile the ordinary teenagers they had watched grow up with the perpetrators of such a horrific crime. The murder of Brianna Ghey stands as one of the most harrowing cases in recent British criminal history, marked by its calculated nature, the youth of the perpetrators, and the senseless loss of a young life that had only begun to flourish.